conference I've done like in the past month or so, and I was talking about it with Tim yesterday, how Live Res has been putting on a great show. It's very organized, great food, and so we're super excited, to meet with the partners and appreciate the partnership and just, happy to be here. And so today I'm going to go over credit card processing in the vacation rental industry, kind of why it's unique compared to most other industries, and then talk about everyone's least favorite topic, which is chargebacks. And so I know that unfortunately all of you guys are probably familiar with chargebacks and have policies in place and deal with it and kind of already know the drill. But my goal is to kind of educate you guys and give you some advice and tips on how to prevent and win if you do get them. So just a quick intro. So Lynbrook, we specialize in payment processing to the vacation rental industry. We've been in this vertical for over a decade. We work with over 1,000 property managers all across the country. We've worked with LiveRes for years, but recently finished a newer integration, which we are super excited about. We are a part of the Inhabit IIQ family of brands. So we're sister companies with LiveRes. We're based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And we recently just won a Keystone Award from Matt Landau for our support in being the best credit card processor in the vacation rental industry. So is credit card processing an important topic for a property manager? Well, of course, yes, because that's how you guys are getting paid on your transactions, right? And I know that most people look at credit card processing kind of as, an ancillary service, just kind of something on the side, and as long as nothing is going wrong, you may not really think about it. But there's actually a lot that kind of goes on behind the scenes from like an underwriting and risk perspective. And so, what's unique about payment processing in this industry is that you guys aren't seeing your customers face to face. It's all swiped over the phone, online, through the OTAs, large transaction amounts, high chargeback risk. But the most unique thing is the upfront payments that are collected for future reservations. And so from like an underwriting and risk perspective, any business that collects a payment today for services that won't be delivered until a future date is considered moderate to high risk. And vacation rentals are considered on the higher risk area because of the large transaction sizes and the future time frame for delivery, right? Someone may pay you guys today, but may not show up for 6 or 9 months. And I know that all of you guys, probably practice trust accounting. Don't touch that money. It sits, in an escrow account. You pay your homeowners after the guest checks out. But not every property manager does that. And COVID really kind of shined a negative light, on some of these companies that were using those funds, those upfront funds for whatever, financing operations or whatever it may be. And they went when COVID hit and all the cancellations came, they didn't have the money to pay those refunds. So all of those turned into chargebacks. And so the back-end processors and the banks had to step in and satisfy all of that. And I don't know what the number is, but we're talking, hundreds of millions, maybe even more in losses to these processors. And so now, and what they did is they would start auditing accounts and putting reserves on accounts. And we've talked to people where, not Lynbrook customers, but other companies where their funds were being held. They were only getting 75% of their deposits because there was like a collateral or a reserve on their account. And been talking to a lot of people, even at this show, where their refunds are taking weeks to process instead of 2 or 3 days. And that's all because of basically because of COVID and the risk behind it. But all that being said, with the new integration that we have with LiveRes at Lynbrook, with the help of Inhabit and LiveRes, we do all of our own underwriting in-house. And so we built this together specifically for short-term rental managers such as yourself. So if you were to try to apply with like a bank or a local company, they right now probably would not even set up that account. But with Lynbrook, pretty much everyone qualifies for a new account. And if you qualify, you don't have to worry about any of those issues that I was mentioning. So that's it's kind of unique that we do that all like in-house. We have, our underwriting team has been there for years. So it's just cool that we kind of do that all ourselves. So chargebacks. So these are the 4 main chargebacks we see. Credit not processed, no authorization, not as described or defective, and fraud. And we'll just kind of go down through each of these. So credit not processed, we almost always see this chargeback due to like a cancellation, right? Someone gets sick or they can't go anymore and they call you guys 7 days before check-in, but your cancellation policy is you don't get a refund. You know, if it's 30 days out, they want their money back, they get upset, they call their bank or credit card company and file a chargeback. And this one is easily winnable. You just have to provide the correct documentation. And not just for this chargeback, but all chargebacks in general. It is extremely important to have a signed rental agreement. I can't stress, a lot of our best practice is to not even really charge someone's card until actually you have that signed contract. But you need to have a signed rental agreement, and if you have multiple people showing up, multiple families, and they're splitting the payments, every single person that is paying you guys, you need to get a signed agreement from them. I think I just heard this lady in the front was saying how she had, some, I'm not going to call you out, but I'm sorry.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
the long-term management.
Right, and how some girl was using her mom's card, and then that turned into a chargeback. So even in that situation, whoever is paying, you need to get that person to sign the agreement. And also, Visa and these card brands, they want your cancellation policy to be the very last thing on your agreement, and Visa wants the signature within like 1 inch of that cancellation policy. And so when you respond, you want to take screenshots from your website showing, the cancellations on the website, showing your rental agreement, how they signed right next to it. And when you send in your information, you're like, hey, it was literally impossible for this person to miss our cancellation policy when they did this transaction. Here's all the information, here's the website, here's the rental agreement, and then you can, win that chargeback.
Question for you. Is it okay if it's electronically signed, or do you need wet signatures?
No, DocuSign and e-signatures are fine.
Even if it types out the name, the way that it's done, it's not the actual physical signature? This is me signing my name in the air, by the way. You know how you go in
Yeah, and I don't know. What do you think, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, that should be fine.
the typed version?
Yeah.
Okay, as long as it's run through DocuSign or, okay, cool.
Okay, so no authorization. So we almost always see this one for, due to a card being charged for damages after the guest leaves. And I've seen many, many, many rental agreements that have that language saying, if there's damage to the unit, we're going to charge the card on file after the stay. But you're not allowed to do that according to Visa's and the other card brands' regulations. And just because you have someone's card on file, it doesn't give you permission to charge their card. And, Lynbrook doesn't police that. We're not out there enforcing that. And if you guys are doing this, you may have gotten away with it in the past, but Visa and these brands are really kind of cracking down and getting more strict and on this. And so we've actually even, not to scare you guys, but we've actually seen where someone will charge a card for damages after the stay, the person does a chargeback, they lose, and then Visa, because you go directly against their regulations, actually penalizes them and takes back the full amount for the reservation. So what we recommend doing is taking like a non-refundable security deposit, $25, $50, whatever, on every reservation, just kind of like a form of self-insurance. You can dip into that pot if you need to for, wine being spilled on the carpet or whatever, if it's $100. And then if somebody throws, a rager at one of your houses and there's thousands of dollars in damages, you have that signed rental agreement, to take them to small claims court to recoup the money. So not as described or defective. I think this one's pretty obvious, and I'm sure, all you guys do this, but basically just make sure that all of your properties the descriptions are up to date on the website, that all the pictures are up to date and accurate. And we found this online. I thought it was funny how there's this cool, Asian or Japanese style house with the pool, and then in reality it has this little thing up front. So just make sure that everything is up to date. Yeah.
So, real quick, just going back to the previous thing, like if we're charging for, they decide they want to do early check-in, late check-out as an addition, or, like you said, damages. So do we need to get another DocuSign document for every single one of those, or does an email suffice?
Not for like check-in and check-out, but for like if you want to charge someone's card for whatever, you need their permission and definitely want something in writing, email or something that has like the dollar amount, the date, you want to have something that you can send in and be like, hey, this person knew about this charge. Like they authorized this charge to.
It doesn't necessarily have to be another full-on DocuSign agreement. I mean, I'm sure that would probably be better for like, they do $1,000 of damage and they agree to it, but but something like that, just emails.
Yeah. In our system, we actually have like an invoicing tool. So if you had to, you have an invoice, they get a receipt, they're actually putting the information in. I don't know how many people are going to willingly, pay for that, but that is an option that we have. So fraud. So unfortunately, fraud is extremely hard, if not impossible to win, especially, criminal fraud where someone is using like lost or compromised card information. Someone gets the information off the dark web, they book a vacation, they show up, the card holder realizes that their information was compromised, they didn't do that charge, so they file a chargeback. And so years ago, now all credit cards have the little, the chip, right? The chip cards. And so years ago, when those chip cards came out, the banks shifted the liability for fraud from themselves to the merchants, to you guys. So the only way to truly prevent fraud now is to use a chip machine, and we understand that that's not going to work for you guys. You're not seeing your customers face to face. But what we've found and what we've seen is that almost all criminal fraud are on last minute reservations, right? It's all last minute. So, we recommend, and what some of our customers do is just to block off the online reservations for anything within a 7-day window. Make that person call in to your office and vet them and make sure that this person is who they say they are. You want to weed out those people that are using the compromised information. You can get creative, ask them for a copy of a utility bill to make sure all the information matches up. And, getting a driver's license may not be good enough because a lot of times when people get that compromised information off the dark web, they're also getting an ID or at least an address and phone number. So the information may match up. And they may even have a copy of the driver's license, but what you can do is ask them to take a selfie of themselves holding the driver's license so you can actually see that, Chris Savino is Chris Savino. And then also another thing you can do is, request a picture of the back of their credit card, and there's a phone number for the bank, and you can call the bank and, confirm that Chris Savino, this is his card, and is, participating in actually doing business with that person. So that's our presentation there. I did want to show you guys the way that I don't know if it's going to work or not, but hopefully it will. One second.
I have questions too. Shoot.
Caleb, do you know your login? Do you know your login information to Aptex?
I can tell you.
Here, can we use? Can I use your computer to Google something?
Absolutely.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to get it. Well, anyways, basically, so our, historically for chargebacks, and even on our old system, and if you use some of our competitors, the way that, you respond is, here, we won't even have to do it. You may have to fax in information, which is so old school. The whole process is antiquated. I know with some competitors, you'll get an email and then you actually have to send the information to them and they send it off. But with our new system with LiveRes, responding to chargebacks is super easy. So you actually, and it's the same portal that we use for all of our reporting information. So all of your transaction detail, all of your deposit detail, all that information is in the same place where you go to respond to chargebacks. So you actually, every time you get one, you get an email that has the customer's name, the dollar amount, the last four of the card, their email address. There's actually a button on that email that you can click that takes you directly to our portal. And then there's a button that says add attachment, and you can just upload it right through there. And then in that portal, you can kind of manage your chargebacks, see the status of them, and it's all, again, it's all done through the same system that we have for the reporting. So that's kind of my pitch. Do you guys have any questions?
And just remember that the e-sign feature in LiveRes is going to be the most effective way of getting your rental agreement signed. And then also utilizing security damage insurance and travel insurance from any number of, our providers. We've got Rental Guardian, Generali, and then now we're also working with Safely. And I don't know if any of you learned much about Safely during this conference, but they're actually more guest focused, where they actually vet the guests for you. So that might be a really great option too, all three of those, for, avoiding chargebacks in conjunction with everything that Chris said.
With the vacation rental agreements, is there, I know because, how you set up it in the macros, whatever else, but is there a way that we can send separate vacation rental agreements based off of the platforms that are booked? So like Airbnb, because they're the merchant of record, I get a lot of people who gripe about having to send photo IDs, whatever. It's still good to have, but because they're merchant of records, we generally aren't going to have to deal with necessarily chargebacks. I still want to get them to potentially sign a vacation rental agreement, just so we've got that, but not have them go through some of the hoops that they always, and they're like.
They know they don't have to.
Right, and they're like
Yeah.
60% of my business currently.
Okay.
And so, but then having, because VRBO, and then direct bookings, we're the merchant of records, they have a separate one. Is there a way that we can?
Yeah, you
use
should be able
separate?
to do a separate one, for, whatever platform you want to. You can even do separate ones per property, depending on,
Really?
if you've got that 10,000 square foot house that has completely different rules.
We faced issues with the rental agreements with Airbnb. Airbnb doesn't like when you send your rental agreement.
You have to manipulate it, yeah, to
Yeah, you
include
have
the
to
things
follow
that they
along,
say
so
is
we
okay.
just kind of put a blurb on the listing. I mean, it's just that they're really strict and they actually they allow a lot of things.
Caleb.
I mean, we caveat, we put in there like we're a property management company, we're gonna be
Yeah,
sending you a vacation rental agreement. And that's all in, the description, it's in the house
They
rules.
haven't set, wow.
I think so before we put that in and we were making people sign, I've only had 2 people maybe come back and say, hey, you never said this up front, I'm not gonna sign it, and then,
Yeah, you
but
can't.
then because now we put it in the list.
Yeah, I'm gonna log out afterwards.
And since they accept all that, then it's kind of like, look, you've accepted these rules, and Airbnb for the most part told us that as long as it's in your
Yeah.
description and house rules, and they accept it's on the guest to read
Yeah, the
and agree
rules,
to it, so
the
they've
rules.
agreed to it.
Do you have your professional hosting tools turned on in Airbnb to allow you to send out CRM message and stuff to those guests?
I can't really do anything with Airbnb.
Okay, so you can use CRM through Airbnb if you turn on your professional hosting tools.
Are you giving chargebacks in Airbnb? I've never had that.
No, I think they're kind of digressing.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
but-
right.
It's
yeah.
not rental agreements.
I see.
No, I'm just saying, it's kind of coming along with just what
Because there's not really
the
anything
requirements
legally
for the
binding
rental
on
agreements with
Airbnb.
IDs and whatever else. I get a lot of
Well, it
pushback.
is, yeah.
You and Airbnb have a
Yeah.
legally binding agreement, and then Airbnb and the guests have, and we've never sent an Airbnb customer.
We don't either, we don't send the.
No.
We're 90%.
How do I get this screen to show up on here? Do you know?
Oh, you have to grab it and slide it, so it's acting like a separate
They
screen.
actually, yeah, they.
So what do you want on there?
Just
I
this-
think-
this
I think
one.
For me, it's more of a if, I guess there's like guests that are, COVID was a big one.
Okay.
That I'm
That's
sure
not
that
like
didn't matter because when they took money from everybody,
policy.
Yeah.
and then it's, so, but that's something I want, is good to look into, because they already have that agreement, and people are just kind of pushing and driving, but I kind of wanted that as a,
I've had Airbnb favor with us for a lot of things.
is that because you have the vacation rental agreement, or?
We don't have a, we don't send them a rental agreement.
I think that Chris has pulled up that portal that he was talking about.
That's gonna save me probably a lot of pain in the butt.
So you can do whatever you want. Okay, obviously.
As a deterrent, it's probably good to do as a deterrent.
Right.
But you can't, what Caleb was saying is, they actually like tell you, you can't make somebody like prepay for something that hasn't even done yet.
Yeah.
So they can't pay for like, $500 and then you like, yeah, that's the issue that you have.
And that's just the rules. So it's not something, it's that Visa, Master, Discover, they make all the rules.
So if we say, well, so you would have to like, sometimes
It's
they have a
only
hard
when they
time
challenge
getting.
you though, I mean, you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
do this, and have 90% success, but like on the 10% of the time, if somebody, takes you to Visa and does a chargeback, then, they probably won't even look at it, you just automatically Visa.
Yeah.
And it's hairy because you lose that, you risk losing the full reservation, and then Visa charges you like a
I didn't know about
$500.
that, so.
That is not common.
Okay.
He's right, that can happen, but we typically don't see,
They just
that
give them back
issues.
the.
So one thing I ran into was one of the first ones you talked about. I had a spouse that booked. She used her husband's card. They were coming from Canada and staying for a month. And I guess somehow or not, she was a problem guest anyways, but they ended up charging back. And then same thing, they said, nope, there's no proof because I had her driver's license, and even though he was listed under there as an additional guest, but there was no signed document. And they came back and said, look, you're probably gonna lose, but if you wanna take this to court or take it on further, and then if you lose, they were gonna also charge
Like $500.
$500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Again, that's why it's
Why-
important to
why
have.
Is that because they're spending time and lawyers to do this, or what was the whole $500 for?
I think so. Just kind of pushing it up to the next level and the time that it takes to review and all that stuff. And one thing I forgot to say that's important too is how you respond. So like the person that's reviewing the chargeback, is more than likely someone fresh out of college. They're a clerk at the bank. They don't understand the vacation rental industry. For them, it's all, Airbnb and Vrbo, and they're used to reviewing chargebacks for like retail, yoga studio, someone canceling Netflix. They're not used to these $1,000 vacation rental chargebacks. And if you can put it into terms of like a real estate transaction, like, hey, we are not a hotel or a motel. We are a property management company. We have a broker in charge or real estate agents. We actually have a property management agreement with the homeowner. We have a rental agreement with the guest. And this house was hand-selected off our website for these specific dates by this person. It was taken off the market, and we have this signed lease agreement and contract. And when you use that kind of language and put it into perspective, it makes it a lot easier for them to like understand what they're looking at and have a higher success rate. And I can even send you guys kind of a blurb of what I just said, and you kind of use that over and over and over and just copy and paste to the different reasons and the dollar amounts. And so that's what we found that's really helpful. And so this is our portal right here. If you use Lynbrook in our new system, this is actually what the reporting looks like. And so it's super easy to navigate. This is just a list of transactions. It shows you what kind of card, the date of the transaction, actually the date that the transaction hit your bank account, customer name, dollar amount. If you need to search for a specific transaction, you can search by all this different criteria here: person name, amount, last four of the card. We have our deposits calendar, which shows what hit your bank account each day, so you can kind of line this up with your bank statements for a reconciliation. When you click on that, or if you click on our deposits tab, it has a breakdown of all the information, everything that makes up that batch and that deposit. And one thing that's cool too is within the transaction, it actually shows the check-in date, the checkout date, the date booked, and then also the the due date for when the final payment should be collected. And then for chargebacks, I don't think this customer has any chargebacks, but so again, you'll get an email that has all this information, and if you click on that button, it'll actually take you directly to this screen, and it has all the information you need for the guest, and you literally just click add attachment, browse for file, find the file, submit, and you're done. And then
We also have the instructions.
and it has, you know, kind of gives you the what the chargeback is for, and then the status if it's been responded or unresponded. These are all new that haven't been finalized, but it'll tell you if it's been successful or failed, if you won or lost.
You have in the chargeback where we put C instructions. You want to show them that, Chris? Or if they click on that on the bottom left, it'll actually, we have instructions of what we recommend. So if it's fraud, if it's not as described or no authorization, we actually have this in the gateway. So you go through and try to match it according to what the chargeback type is. Click the add attachment, upload your signed rental agreement, evidence, whatever. And some person at that bank, you know, like you said, some guy fresh out of college is going to receive that packet from the cardholder's bank and review it. And so when you explain in there your business and all this, put what we recommend in there, it's going to increase your chances to come out on top and win the chargeback.
So on attachments, we record our phone calls. Can you attach that, or would I have to transcribe the call? Because we had where we couldn't send a recording yet. You can hear that you can hear the person talking, but they wanted to transcribe it. I mean, I could type whatever up if I wanted to.
It's a good question. I don't know. I can find out.
Getting recordings, to be able to send those are like, of course, helpful because then you get to hear the conversation of them authorizing the charge rather than just reading it. Because I mean, like I said, I could.
Yeah, I could test it, but I don't want to put some stuff in there on someone's chargeback. But I can find out.
A voice recording.
Well, I would say go along with that. I mean, with that and emails, like how is it, or is a credit card gonna just say, hey, there's no real proof, like whoever was on the other end of that phone, we can't really verify their
That
voice.
helps a little bit.
No,
I
no,
would say.
or same thing for an email, like, you know, somebody doesn't have their email where it's, you know, first name dot last name at gmail.com, it's some random whatever, and, but that, we submit that as proof of them authorizing a charge. Do credit cards come back and say, nope, it's not enough evidence?
We've gotten it. We've won one off of a transcribed phone call.
Really?
Unless they're claiming fraud though. Because
Yeah,
if they're saying it wasn't me, then your recorded phone call doesn't matter because you're just gonna say it wasn't them. But if they're saying I didn't like my stay or if it's about a dispute and the identity isn't in question, then your transcription does matter.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So it really, the reason code, whether they're claiming fraud or whether they're just claiming, you know, a basic dispute about quality or services, it just matters how they're gonna look at the evidence.
And every bank, by the way, every card that you get is from a different bank. So you have to keep in mind that it could be Chase, it could be Capital, it could be whatever. Take whatever bank they got that from. So you're looking at a different person from each bank. So these variables fluctuate, meaning according to what bank you're going to, you're trying to package this, get the most pristine package you can together to send to that chargeback help desk of that bank to increase your chances of winning. So I mean, that's where you just have to do your due diligence and see how you come out with it, because it just depends on, you know, how well you respond and what bank you got and what rep's reading it.
Are fraudsters getting smart to the fact that like frauds are basically impossible to dispute? That like they know they're gonna win.
They are getting smarter for sure. And some markets that we see like Orlando, Miami, they have especially where there's like a large international, travel. That's kind of where we see it the most. But unfortunately, they are getting
But I
smarter.
guess on the other end, like once they've had their stay, it doesn't really matter anyway. They don't really care how it comes out. They've already had their
Right.
stay.
Yeah, and another thing too, though, that's, people aren't doing fraud 6 months in advance. Right. They're stealing the card, and they're not gonna book 6 months out on a stolen card. They're gonna do most of that within 0 to 7 days. And so that's where most of the technology that even we're building out, we're building out an identification verification tool that should be able to send a ping to the cardholder's phone to help verify that they're in fact who they say they are. That's a
So
number.
you're working on something like that?
That guy,
still gotta score. It's not gonna be nothing's
Yeah, oh,
100%,
yeah.
but it's for you just to make a decision. Okay, they can't even, they're not engaging, or they can't even like prove that they have the phone, or they do have the phone, but none of the name.
Yeah,
So maybe it's
so
just a
you're
juvenile kid with his
referencing-
dad's credit card. So you could do.
An idea is, when you call these, when somebody's trying to rob you, right, most robberies happens at night. They're not gonna come in midday and knock on your door and say, hey, can I steal your TV?
I mean, it
They might, but the idea is with this, when you put a spotlight on them and call them up and are like, hey, we're just gonna verify you, a lot of people are gonna run off, because they're thinking, shoot, I'm gonna get caught, I don't want to go to jail, and so, I mean, you're gonna run those folks off. And so even if it's not foolproof, you may have somebody who's just gridlocked and gonna go through it anyway, you at least have a more screening and window to try to defend yourself on it.
So I know you guys are saying 0 to 7 days as far as booking out. What about reservation length? Is it normally just, you know, like a weekend? Because my only fraud charge I've ever dealt with was when, before we did integration, VRBO was still the merchant of record, but it was a week-long stay. So I've never had any other issue, you know, with fraud, but it was a week-long stay where the Wednesday into the stay, they're like, hey, this card was reported stolen. And, I mean, that was a whole other mess. So confronting guests and stuff, but that's.
A lot of the fraudulent cards that are used are international cards. And so by the time a bank from Germany files a claim to the bank, it takes like 2 weeks to get, known. So that they could get away with week stay. And the chargeback system isn't quick enough. And then we're relying on an owner too, cardholder owner, to actually make the claim. And they might not see it for 5 days. And then they'll make the claim, and then it could take another week.
What else we got?
I've got questions about your software.
Okay, yeah.
How easy is it to do additional charges? Like, let's say, VRBO, TripAdvisor, whatever else, they take the initial payments and it flows through our system, so we don't have the tokens, but they're, like right now, Yapstone's got all that. And if I want to do additional charges, instead of calling the guests and requesting their card information again, I'll kind of go into the guest search and do an additional payment. Do you guys have that feature?
Yeah, you can send out an invoice via email or text. And so, excuse me. So basically it sends them a link, email or text. They click on that link, it takes them to a PCI compliant hosted payment page, and then they just put in their credit card information and make the payment.
Instead of me doing it on the back end and I'm just.
Well, you can, but you can also,
I think he's talking about the in-live res. You'll just be able to do all the payments in live res.
Well, right, so, I mean, what I'm saying is,
because we don't see the numbers.
yeah, so like VRBO, like if they do a direct booking, I've got their tokens and I can just go ahead in my system and do that, but when it flows through VRBO or TripAdvisor, we don't see the tokens, so I go into Yapstone in the back end, and then I'll just, if they want to do, let's say, early check-in, late check-out, I'll go in under the guest search, find them, and then I'll put in the, $45 charge, whatever else, and click take payment, and then I have to go in and go to my system and add them.
Oh,
We're,
okay.
we're fully integrated with LiveList and about to be NextPax, so the token will just come into LiveRes. You won't ever have to go into our portal to generate anything. So you'll be able to do all the, because you're going to get the first payment right from the day of booking. But anything like final balance or anything like you mentioned, any add-ons or perhaps a refund, you can just do all that in LiveRes. You won't have to go in the portal.
That's just the way, again, you're talking to the mastermind behind it, so he's really more.
What are y'all's costs compared to Yapstone?
super competitive. It just depends on the market. But yeah, super competitive rates.
When you say depending on the market, what do you mean?
So there's a core cost for every different type of credit card. You have debit, rewards, business, government. There's literally hundreds of types of cards, and they all have different rates that go back to whatever bank issued that card. So someone in the mountains of Tennessee that does nightly rentals for $80 a night, they're going to get a lot of debit cards, which are cheaper. So their effective rate's going to be a lot less than someone in Hawaii or Orlando that's doing a lot of international, or someone in Mississippi that gets a lot of like military or government or corporate cards. Those can be close to like 3%. So it just depends on the traveler and the market of
you guys charging on top of those?
We charge 10 cents per transaction. So Amex across the board is 2.89. So if you guys take Amex right now, you're probably paying 3.5%. You may, excuse me, and a lot of you guys probably have get a separate deposit from American Express, which kind of creates an extra step for bank rec, right? Because you have your report in live res that shows, X amount of dollars in sales, but your deposit doesn't match because of American Express. Whereas on our program, accepting Amex is just like a Visa. It's consolidated. It's all combined together with the fees and the deposit. So Amex across the board is always 2.89, so significantly cheaper than what you guys would pay. 10 cents per transaction. Visa, MasterCard, Discover really just kind of depends. We can analyze that if you guys are interested, and that's it. No monthly fees, no gateway connection fees, just the flat rate percentages.
So we basically just check you guys out, when you check your statements and see what's going on, and then we try to compete.
And we have, like I said, we have over 1,000 customers all over the country, so it's more than likely we have data in that whatever market you guys are in where I can review and see what the core cost is. So we may not necessarily even need that information. We kind of already know what the cost is in different areas.
So, kind of outside this, refunds, are there processing fees associated with refunds?
No,
No?
no.
I just want to clarify that.
Well, every transaction you process is 10 cents, right? So you're going to pay a dime.
Right.
But
What
right,
I'm saying,
right,
like,
right.
Credit card, the 3%.
Right, no, no.
500, $1,000
Right.
deposits, and then, because I'm not charging really processing fees to refund. I just want to make sure that, as we refund, I'm not actually losing.
No. Yeah.
But you don't refund, like, you get charged processing fee at the time of purchase.
Right.
If you refund that, you're not getting back
Okay.
costs.
Well, I mean,
So you're still paying that fee.
well, I'm including the fee. I mean, for the processing fees, I kind of took a, average of 3%, and then I added 1%, so I'm charging 3.1% to help cover that, plus, if I need to make a tiny bit money or whatever else, but anyway.
Most people do that.
Yeah.
3% or something to kind of cover that.
Okay, so what is since if we're integrated with the App Store or another payment processor, what is the process to switch over to you guys?
Super easy. We have an online application. We would require some documents for the underwriting process. But once we have all of that, our team reviews and can get it connected to live res within days. So it's a really quick process, and it's an instantaneous change. And the great thing about what we've built out together is the transition is really seamless. It did not used to work this way, but now, so if you guys were to sign up with Lynbrook today, we would process all net new business. So any new reservations, we would start processing. And any payment that was charged through Yapstone or whoever, when it comes time to collect their final balance, it would just actually get pointed back to vacation rent payment. So, and there's a drop down in live res that you click to kind of, tell it to go back, which makes it easy for you guys because you're not having to reach back out to the guest to get their information and reprocess it through us. Or the way we used to have to work was you'd actually have to go to your old system, manually process it there, and then go to your software and update that. But now it just points it where it should go. So it really is an easy transition.
So you're helping save lives.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to make it seamless, and it helps.
Yeah, it's been a good process, actually.
Yeah.
We're switching over.
I'm gonna ask more questions. I've got a question for you guys, everybody else. You guys take then security deposits from your direct bookings or vacation, or VRBO or anything like that?
We use safe, which is a drink.
Really? sorry if I'm getting.
You're good. I'm.
Extremely profitable.
Yeah, so we do damage waivers, and so I mean, then I've got my fund built up, and then anything other is just income coming in each month, but I guess it's just, still somebody, comes in and does like $5,000 worth of damages, and
They do, they only pay out, like, I think up to $1,500.
that's what our damage waiver.
Yeah, ours is 1,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just kind of like the cost of doing business, essentially, like, it builds up to a pretty decent amount every month, and it has to be guest reported or staff reported.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then we'll actually make that claim. If someone goes and they stay, and they damage something, and they don't turn around and let us know, and we don't find it, which happens, we don't find it either, and the homeowner finds it, then we do have to go out to that guest, like make a claim on Airbnb or VRBO, and actually like chase that resolution down. But sometimes it just depends. It depends, like, are we talking like a smoking fine that we'll never be able to get back? Is that worth our time? Do we
Yeah.
just say screw it and call it a day? Or is it $2,000 worth of, yeah, or is it $2,000? So like, really looking at it for us, I mean, 1.5% of the time we have problems.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
So I just didn't know, like, with the security deposit, because some people talk about where they tend to tread a little bit lightly, but is that pain because it's extra money, and, it's just, you can't really require a deposit from, like, under Airbnb. I mean, you can under Airbnb's resolution center, but that's actually technically they don't want you to.
And it's so much more manpower to do that, and
Right.
that's why.
And the
we're just
timeliness of it,
Yeah.
I mean, the resolution center, Safely has gotten rid of us using the
Yeah.
resolution center other than extra services the guests want. Like
Does
late
Safely
check.
cover pet damages?
They cover deep cleaning fees. I mean, I have never been declined. You have to have photos, but I've never had.
They actually cover, intentional damages, where
Yeah.
other insurance companies are unintentional.
Right.
So that's another huge plus with them. But
Yeah.
also Rental Guardian offers partner insured, security damage deposits or insurance. And what that means is you can charge those on every single transaction, including, NextPax, Airbnb, Live List, those, because you own the policy, so you can make that mandatory for the guest to pay. And you just add it on to every single reservation. So there are a couple other options that will work with, cutting down on chargebacks that are not of the typical, like, original security damage insurance that we used to offer through just Generali, I couldn't think of the name. So yeah, and Safely is new, and they vet the guests, and then they also will, cover if somebody's swaying from the chandelier.
So I mean, with that, since you use that, and again, I apologize for taking up
That's a
people's
word.
time, but
It's the whole point of conference.
so with Safe, is it extra steps on the guests that they're just gonna be, I know, like, I find out with even just signing a vacation rental agreement, that
Yeah,
sometimes
we
they get
can-
pissed off, and it's an extra step, so is
That
there,
long?
People, I'm telling you.
is there an extra step that's involved on the guest perspective where they get frustrated?
No, we literally put it in our house rules. We have a blurb that explains exactly what it is. They have a link to a landing page that has our logo on it and everything, and further explains what it covers, and that it's good for guests too. They appreciate that, like, oh, I'm kind of covered here. And ultimately, I know a lot of people don't even read the house rules, and they don't see the fee. If it's an Airbnb, it's built into the rental rate, but we still call it out. But ultimately, we don't get questioned about it. The only time I've ever
A little
had
bit of digressing,
questions
but
is if a stay is past 29 nights, but I just refer them right back to the house rules that they saw and agreed to when they booked, and it's seamless. But it's like not separate. That would be the only instance that would be a separate payment.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And filing with
But
things
sometimes they
is
aren't
usually good for
awful.
anyway. Sure. I mean,
But
it's.
yeah, these guys like to chit
The
chat.
only reason why we didn't do Safely is because we already have a damage waiver in process
Right.
that's honestly better than theirs. Right. And if I had jumped on board with Safely's, I would have actually been shooting myself in the foot for what I've already created versus what they would be taking. Right. So that's the only reason.
What, I guess
It's
the
the
way
same
it's.
for, that's the same for us, because we have it in our own
Yeah.
damage waiver.
Yeah.
It's like a 3-step thing depending on house.
Yeah.
And the one thing we did like about it is the vetting of the guest, but then we're still shooting ourselves in the foot if we switch it.
Okay.
But the vetting of the guest though is manual, it doesn't automatically happen, and that was the
It
whole,
is.
like, wait,
We've tried.
what?
I will say,
Yeah.
the vetting of the guests, I don't know how
Yeah.
built out that
It's not
is.
automatic, they don't do it for you, you have to chase down the guest's actual information.
Okay,
through the
that's-
system.
okay, so
Okay, so then it's, so basically we can do that ourselves.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. technically insurance, right?
Yeah,
Has
you just can't
anybody-
say that word.
Right, exactly, I
Say
know
that
it's a,
word.
yeah, but I mean, it's.
You're
to
talking
cover for
dirty, you know?
damages, Has anybody had any pushback on that?
So we call it property.
I mean, we call it a damages, we call it a
We
non-refundable
call
damage
ours
waiver.
a property protection, damage waiver, and then there's another name, it kind of just
Yeah.
depends.
Okay.
I don't want to encourage
And it
them.
goes
Right.
up to.
Yeah, that's true.
But you do want to encourage them to report it. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised, they actually open their mouth and say something.
Yeah.
So it's a list of like, I send them an email, like, you check in, we're like, friendly reminder, you're covered up to $1,000. If you get drunk and you decide to dance on that coffee table, good for you, just let me know you broke it. And they do.
And that's what, yep.
So but does that not encourage them then to do
No,
bad things?
the alternative is they like rig the leg up and you find it 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
You know, like
And then we're
just
trying to
saying-
search, like, was it this one, was it this one?
Yes. Oh my God.
I know, I think we got five.
Can't figure it out, yeah.
So, then, quick question, Airbnb pet deposits. Does anybody do?
They are very strict for pets. I
We
go
don't allow
round and
pets, so
round,
I'm not-
they,
You got a
we
lot of
have
pets
it in
at
our
all?
thing
Any
about,
properties?
we don't,
That's just a general
we
discussion.
put it in our rules for pets.
I like it though.
Like, I think 55.
They love to,
So
oops.
it's kind of a pet fee, and if we ask for it, they're like, oh, well, it's emotional support, and we can't do anything. So, I put it, I do a security deposit.
Well, they get
on
it on
our Airbnb,
Vegas, like
just to kind of
everybody
cover if that fee, if
So
it
but
does.
now you're, how much of your business is Airbnb?
Not much, we don't, we don't, I list what I wanna list on there, just to get the last minute bookings, we have a 3-month book out window that says.
Like 0% of my
I'm a
business.
solid.
We-
like
we-
10%.
So then, I mean, and so you, it's not a problem for you because you don't, but do you take deposits at all on?
No,
Airbnb?
because that's one of the glorious things about this too, is I don't even have to charge a deposit anymore, and they're just paying this damage waiver.
Right.
And they
Yeah, I
book
agree
with
with
me because it costs less to book with me than it does the guy on the street, because they are charging $500.
Okay.
You know, and so
Yeah.
it has been
We
a
have 3
game
houses with
changer.
Yeah, I mean, our issue is because Airbnb doesn't cover for any pet damages.
Yeah.
They really.
And so we,
Right.
yeah,
I
no,
read that
it's
over.
specific, like if you mention, hey, this is damage caused by a pet, they'll just be like, nope, sorry, we're not gonna cover. So you have to specifically in your when you describe damage, you can't say. So I mean, it's kinda hard when I'm like, I got all this hair, I got all this hair on this, you know. But
Well,
they,
that's where the rental guardian, partner insured would come in,
Mhm.
because if it's a pet-friendly property and you allow it, and then there's excessive pet cleaning needed to be done, then your insurance covers it. You don't have to go through Airbnb.
So that'd be fantastic, because that's my pain is where, I mean, even though we describe it in our listing, yeah, I mean, we charge a pet fee too per day, and then it's in the house rules, but then when they go to book, and then I'm like, okay, you gotta pay your fees, and everybody's just like, whoa, this is a.
I know,
it's a
it's
bait
like,
and
it's
switch
like,
or
it's right
whatever.
there.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, it's literally like
Right.
4
Then it-
places.
Well, did you
Also
notice they
gives
took
them
off the pet fee
leeway
option?
to say, I paid $300 for my dog to be here, I'm gonna let him shit on the carpet. That has happened to us, I can't tell you how many times.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm just like, I'm done with this, we're not doing this anymore.
We have a blanket no pet policy, but people still reach out, so it's not like it
Yeah.
deters people at all.
Yeah.
And then it's just a case by case of like what the owner is willing to upcharge the nightly rate, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever had, I mean, typically, yeah, you can't ask for a deep cleaning, even if it's a service dog. I mean, I don't even think you can ask for documentation.
No,
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
at all,
No,
they're there.
no, you can't. So the Airbnb's got, there's 3
2
specific.
questions you can ask, it's
3,
2.
well, it's like 3 specific questions, and
For
I mean,
service
South
dog.
Carolina, I've been through this with,
And
because
they-
we do long-term property management too, so I, you know, very well versed in that, emotional support animals, but
Yeah.
3 pieces of documents, and then one of them is, you know, it's signed off on an actual letterhead by the medical provider.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, because somebody can pay, anybody can pay like $25 to get like, hey, here's my emotional
That's
support.
true.
Yeah.
I think that is.
So to have it actually on a letterhead, and the doctor or service provider is actually answering those 3 questions specific, and if they can't provide it, I'm like, sorry, I'm gonna charge you.
Yeah.
That-
See, we've tried, they won't prove anything, and
Well, then they can't say, then it's like, look, you forfeit your right, I'm taking your money, and